What was wrong with Henry VIII's legs? Now you might be looking at those legs, those fine specimens. Actually, if I can float here, kind of looks like I've got Henry's legs. Henry had spectacular legs as a young man. Look at these things, these buff calves, and he loved showing them off. But by the time he died, he was said to have had the sorest legs in the whole world. His enemies spoke about them. Everybody knew that the king's legs were absolutely, for want of a better word, fucked. So what was wrong with him? So the first thing you need to know about Henry VIII is that as a young man in his 20s, he was hot. There's no other way to describe him. He was well over 6 foot. He was auburn in colour. Even people who don't like this guy are forced to concede, Jesus, he's really good looking. He was also a fantastic sportsman. He loved sports. He was such an athletic guy. If there was a sport going, he was going to have a crack at it. And he would have played sports all day, every day, if he could. It was wrestling or tennis or hunting or jousting or whatever it was. He absolutely loved it. So he's burning calories. He's burning calories all the time, leading to a fine figure of a man in his youth. So what went wrong? The first records we have of something up with Henry's legs is in 1527. He's playing tennis, he has an accident, and something happens that makes his legs swell up and become really painful. But eventually the swelling goes down and he kind of cracks on with being a king. Now the big one. In 1536, Henry was jousting and he was knocked off his horse and the horse fell on top of him and crushed him. He was knocked unconscious for 2 hours. Today that would be a hospital job and a CT scan, but not back then. And the other thing was that his legs were crushed under the horse. There's a strong possibility that femurs in his legs were broke and they never healed up properly. And over the course of his lifetime, his legs get worse and worse. There are open sores all over his legs and they are oozing pus and just awfulness. It gets so bad, the wounds are so infected that it's said that you could have smelled the king from 3 rooms away. And his physicians try and treat this with, the top-notch Tudor know-how, which includes things like cauterizing them with burning pokers or trying to keep the abscesses open to get the pus out of it, all of which would have had no effect, made it worse, and really not done any good for Henry at all. By the end of his life, he was in so much pain, he had to be put into the Tudor equivalent of a wheelchair. But what was it? What happened to his legs? It has been suggested that he had syphilis. That's a really popular explanation for why he was covered in these sores, but we can rule that one out because Henry's health is spectacularly well documented and nowhere in any of the records does it say that he was treated with mercury. And he's the king. He would be treated with the best cure for syphilis, which it wasn't, but they thought it was. He would definitely have been treated with mercury, and he wasn't. And there's all kinds of explanations, but here's the one I quite like. So this paper, published in 2009, suggests that Henry's legs was the result of deep vein thrombosis, which might actually have been caused by those garters that he tied really tightly around his legs because he wanted to show off his calves. And that might actually have triggered deep vein thrombosis. Back to that paper. So right below me, severe venous hypertension may therefore have resulted in ulceration, and the untreated compound fracture from his jousting accident may result in diffuse infection with cellulitis, osteomyelitis, and deep abscess formation.